Hello, everybody. How are you?
Yeah, well, that's one of those Wednesdays.
It is. We're very, very late, and we're going to tell a story about how we just realized that Michelle doesn't know how to make cocktails.
Yeah. So generally, the ones who've been watching it for like 5 seasons, we kind of prepare for the show. We make our notes. We prepare at least 1-2 cocktails, depending on the guests on the show, and then Robin makes it live. So as I screwed up the time, I was an hour behind. I thought it was 11 o'clock as I was driving here, realizing it was 12. Robin was also behind, like, setting up because.
Oh my God, we had so many new clients today. Yeah. I was on the phone all morning with new clients.
To have, right?
It's a great problem to have.
And Michelle, this is what your 3rd, 4th time on the show, right?
Yeah.
So she's been on the show. She knows how the process works. So we're like, hey, Michelle, make yours and Anna's cocktail. And she's like, okay. So we have recipe. Remember, we have the Tipsy Realtor book with instructions to follow. So she's like, okay, where is this? Of course, we're at Robin's house today. She doesn't know where the stuff is. And we kind of directing, finding things that we need for the cocktail. So I come in and here like, okay, we're ready. I was like, where are the cocktails? And she's like, literally has like 2 things filled with ingredients that goes in cocktail and they're sitting here like this. I was like, no, you're supposed to make them, prepare like we're going to drink them after. She's like, oh, okay. So now Robin comes in. We're trying to all like put the cocktail together and start shaking it. I was like, I'm pretty sure she put soda in there. Robin's like, no. I was like, and it's spilling everywhere. Like, Michelle, did you put soda in a cocktail? She's like, yes, a soda. I was like, but if you ever guys know, if you put a cocktail.
But what's even funnier is we asked her, she's reading and it says muddle. So she's stuck everything in the glass and she's muddling it all together.
Oh, God.
I'm a beer girl.
Yeah, all right.
There you go.
I like beer.
Anyway, so this is how we find out that Michelle never made a cocktail in her life. And can't read the instructions either. Yeah.
All right.
Now we're going to make it the proper way.
We are. So we're starting with an empty glass, and this is where we're going to stick in our mint leaves. Oh, sorry. Let me do this first. Mm-hmm. Oh, you know what? I didn't do. Hang on. I'm rewinding.
We didn't introduce the topic today.
We are doing the cease and desist, and we're talking about secondary suites and how to take an illegal suite to a legal suite, which is why it was so important that Michelle was on the show today, because this is the girl that specializes in this. She's an architect.
Cocktail making.
No, not my specialty.
But she does the permits. She's done suites herself, all that kind of stuff. But so this is like her jam, and we had to have her on the show. Next time we won't ask her to help us set up.
No, don't do that. Just have my drink ready.
For a permit. Just take a cocktail.
Exactly. So here is our cocktail. So we're putting in a tablespoon of sugar.
Yep.
And we're putting in the mint leaves. And you're going to muddle these together, which is just without anything else in the glass.
Okay,
Michelle.
Nothing else in the glass.
And you're basically just trying to get the essence of the mint out into the sugar. So
muddle mint leaves and sugar in a cocktail shaker, step 1.
All right, so we've muddled.
Didn't read those.
All right, so now we're going to take the cocktail shaker full of ice, and this is where we're going to put our 2 ounces of bourbon, and then our 3 ounces of cranberry juice.
Yeah, and our notes say crushed ice. We use very tiny ice, like tiny cubes, but you can always crush it by hand. I've done that at home too.
Or if your fridge has an ice crusher, but I don't like crushed ice, I'm just going to be honest. And I certainly don't like shaking with crushed ice.
It's honestly, I think it's like waters down quicker, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
hey, get off.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I'm going to go in the coffee and close. Something's going to fall off. I was like, hold on, I need to hold my tongue.
This is definitely turning into a very interesting show today.
One of a kind show. I like it.
All right. So now we've got everything shaken into our glass.
We got to keep it interesting.
Exactly. And now we're going to pour it into what we've got. Is we actually chose to do our coupe glass today. You can make it a bigger or not. And then a splash of soda. And then it wants you to put a squeeze of lime in.
Yeah.
And then it says garnish with lime, but I'm just throwing the lime in.
Yeah. I like it. That's how I actually.
Yeah, that does look good.
really gets all the juices going there.
Absolutely.
Alright.
So here we are ready to
A
go.
bit fast.
All right. Thank you.
Who knows what kind? How
What is
drinks
in
do you
there?
think,
Yeah,
Michelle?
yours does look
Michelle,
better than mine. There you go.
All right, cheers.
Cheers.
Let's try this.
Very
Mm.
summery.
This would be
I like
really
it.
good if you ever have like
It must be a
Moyers
fruit salad.
fruit
Mhm.
salad.
Mm.
Cease
It's
and
like
desist
a-
isn't supposed to be
It's
enjoyable.
like a cranberry mojito with that mint
That
in
actually,
there.
yeah, that would be a good
Yeah.
explanation.
I was
Mhm.
thinking that kind of reminds me of something. But
Mhm.
mojito is made with rum. This is with bourbon.
Okay.
So-
So it's like a manly,
A
kind
manly
of version.
mojito.
Yeah.
I like it.
But it still looks pink.
Yeah.
But it still looks pink.
Maybe it's like a man for the man in every woman.
I
Is
think
it-
it's for the man that exudes confidence.
Mhm. I think so too. I like that.
Or the girl that likes her bourbon but still wants to be a lady.
Yeah, I like it actually. You know what? It's super fresh.
It is good.
I would say it's totally easy to make. I do like
I
the
would-
kick of bourbon in there personally
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
rum is very well. I mean, if that's what you like, it's very subtle, right?
Mhm.
Especially
Yeah.
these usually white rum. This is obviously brown liquid.
Yeah,
yeah.
has
I
a
will
bit
give
more
you
punch.
2 thumbs up, and
Me
it's a
too.
really
I want to
good-
hear if you think it's easy to make.
Yeah. Well, now that
Actually,
I
Nick Hurt
see
is
how it's
shaking
done,
his
I
soda.
feel like try. I yes. Now that I know how it's done, I'm more of like instructions through a video kind of gal.
That's the
Not
generation.
not written
So,
instructions.
Michelle, your homework will be watch the show,
Yeah, make
follow
the
the
drink.
instructions
Again.
from the show, and make a drink.
Yeah,
and
I think so
videotape that.
too.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
post that.
Exactly.
That's homework for you.
Okay,
All right.
I like it.
So here we are talking about.
Put this down. You guys can see the notes. We have lots of notes to cover. I
We
guess.
have lots of notes, and honestly, again, I wrote the notes, and then it was funny because Michelle's like, that's not right. I'm like, well, that's why you're here, because I knew you'd correct what was wrong.
Totally, exactly.
So let's talk about sweets.
Yeah.
You go off. Talk about
Okay.
what makes a sweet illegal.
Yeah, so there's a few different like safety elements that you must have in a suite to make it legal. If you're doing a suite from scratch, so there is
We're talking
no
about how to make an
pre-existing-
illegal sweet to legal.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So illegal suite to
Legal.
legal suite, not just like putting in a basement suite.
No, because
Okay.
that's next week.
Okay, perfect. Okay, sounds good. I'll be here next week too.
Yeah, and I would say it's probably one of the first questions we get from people. What it makes it illegal, right?
What makes it
Mhm.
illegal? So
Yeah.
what makes a sweet illegal?
Illegal. Okay. So there's a few things that may have been grandfathered in that are no longer allowed to be grandfathered in. So for example, like egress windows. Sometimes you'll come to a house and maybe that suite, 20 years ago they put it in, and at that time maybe they were following the codes of that generation, but as the codes have developed and whatever changed, maybe that suite is no longer following a new codes. And so to make it legal, you have to now follow you're allowed to have a couple things grandfathered in, and we'll talk about that, but everything else must follow the new legal code book. So for example, like maybe the egress windows 20 years ago, I don't know, because 20 years ago I was in
Diapers.
like in school, still wasn't thinking about legal suites yet. But so now that is a safety element that you must upgrade, and there's lots of those safety
Do you
elements.
mind if I ask you a quick follow-up question on this?
Yeah.
So let's say there is a registered suite that has been registered as a legal suite 20 years ago, but
Mhm.
no longer meets the current fire code requirement.
Mm-hmm.
How is it gets flagged somehow? Is it becomes illegal, or because it's registered as grandfathered and being registered as a legal suite?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I actually don't know the full answer on that. Like if
Alright,
the
well-
city of Calgary does have a website where you can see all the suites that are registered and legal on that website.
Yes.
And so if it was legal and grandfathered in, how would they know? The only thing that I could think of is when you're reselling that suite, you cannot advertise it as now a legal suite. But how would, like, if your question is how would the city of Calgary know?
Well, if it
that-
was, no, she's
yeah.
saying if it was legal at one point, can they
Mhm.
take away making it a legal suite at any point?
Can they take
So
away
if they
that
already
status
gave
of
them
it?
the permit
Yeah.
and said it was a permitted suite, can they take that away from them? But the old permitted
I think
suites,
yes, I think that they could.
well, the old permitted suites had to have their own electrical, they had to have
Nobody
their own
ever asked
heating.
me that. I just thought about it.
I know, but the old permitted suites had to have their own electrical, had to have their own furnaces, or heating sources. The old suites, other than windows, really were to a higher standard than what they are now.
Mm-hmm.
Right? To have a legal suite before, because 20 years ago, which I wasn't in school and I was a realtor, it was two electrical. You had two different electrical. You had two different heating sources. You could do the shared entrance was still allowable, but the small windows was still allowable. So that was the difference.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
But
okay.
having a legal suite back in the old days, actually, if anything, they've lessened the standard, allowing different things to be allowable that weren't allowable before. So, okay, so
Mhm.
right now, not having those windows, not having the permits, what else would make a suite illegal?
So interconnected smoke alarms, that's another thing that you must have. So
That was something that wasn't there before.
That's right.
Interconnected.
That's
That's new.
5 years.
Yeah.
Mhm. And that's now a requirement on all new builds. So even if you have a suite or
Basement development
basement development or anything like that and you're upgrading, you have to upgrade those smoke alarms. So if one goes off, they all are going off in the house. And that's just how people are building houses nowadays. Whereas in the olden days, one smoke alarm would go off and then the other ones downstairs would just be sitting there and not doing anything.
Yeah.
So oh yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, so that is definitely new. Is there
Mhm.
anything else that you would say that is difference from illegal to legal? There's smoke barriers that have to be down the hallway. So if you don't have those proper smoke barriers,
yeah, so you have to now, again, to upgrade your illegal suite to a legal suite is you must create smoke tight separations in both suites. And so that's just if a fire combusts in one suite, it takes longer to get into the suite below. So you have to have drywall on both sides. So let's say you have a furnace room, you have to have drywall on the ceiling, on the walls, everywhere. It has to be completely drywalled and completely sealed. So if there is a fire in the electrical room or the furnace room, that doesn't spread to the rest of the house as quickly. Obviously, it will still spread, but just not as quickly. And then you have to have different smoke tight doors. So you have to have self-closing doors. You might see these self-closing doors in your house if you have a attached garage. Yep. And so they're just basically garages that as you're walking out, they close behind you. So you have to have those doors on your suites, both upstairs and downstairs. You don't have to have one going outside. Like if there's a shared hallway, sometimes you'll have, especially in bungalows, you'll have that shared hallway that goes from the basement to the outside, and maybe from the main suite there might be like 3 steps down and then to the outside. So that door doesn't have to be, but the 2 suite doors have to be. And they also have to have a deadbolt. You can't just have a little tiny yeah.
Interesting.
So like if it's just like a doorknob and on the doorknob it has like that thing where somebody could take a bobby pin and push.
So you have to have actual like a real lock.
Yeah, and like even if some will have like a key and stuff like that, but it actually has to be a full deadbolt. And I got called on that with my suite. So one of them had that deadbolt and the other one didn't, which I don't know why the door company sent me a door that accommodated deadbolt and the other one. But I ended up having to get rid of that door and then get a full new door, which was a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
make sure you have that deadbolt in
And
there.
like one more, like just kind of one biggest thing I think for the suites as well. A lot of people ask, well, if I don't have a kitchen in a basement, does it still make it illegal suite? Or even if like it's just like somebody maybe lives there and maybe renting that, but there is no kitchen.
Yeah.
Or a lot of people say, well, I don't have a stove, but I have a hot plate.
Is that allowable?
Yeah, like
Can you have a legal suite with just a hot plate?
I need to check up on that one too.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
because I know you don't need an oven. You can do a countertop stove, like a countertop stove, so you can just
Mhm.
cook things. But I don't know about a cook plate.
Well, that's the thing. Like people say, like, well, it's not like I don't need to register that as a suite because I don't have a stove or hot plate. Sometimes you're not even supposed to, I think, put a microwave in there. I know a lot of us do, like for popcorn, whatever,
Yeah.
like even in our home. But that's kind of like also what categorized to be sweet, like legal or illegal.
Yeah.
Is
I think
because what's the difference between the kitchen and the wet bar?
yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's a good point. So a suite, even if it's illegal, it definitely has to have a bathroom, a bedroom, and I guess in the old, sorry, I was gonna say in a egress window, but I guess that's just the new suites. And the kitchen must have at least a sink, and I think it must have like a sink, fridge, like.
So it does have to have
like,
some level of a
probably-
kitchen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So here's my other question then.
Mhm.
Okay, so you've got an illegal suite. You want to upgrade it to a legal suite. What's the process?
So the process of that, if you're going through the city, obviously, because the city will give you that status where it's a legal status, and they'll actually put that suite on their website to show people, if renters are serious, they can go onto that website to see which ones are illegal. And so you want to make sure that you go through the city to do that. Nowadays, you used to have to put in a development permit, and the city has kind of been taking steps to remove the red tape. So the first step that they removed is you used to have a development permit, and it was only allowed in some zones. And then they removed the payment on that development permit. So you still had to get a development permit, but it was free. And then now they've gone a step further, and you can just put a suite basically anywhere in the city. Yeah, there might be some neighborhoods that have an RC, like like a
01?
no, sorry, like a restricted covenant.
Restricted
direct
covenant?
control, DC, right?
Well, no, but they may have a restrictive covenant. But I know when I was chatting with a guy from the city, one of the alder people, he said that if there wasn't enough parking, that they can restrict you based on parking. Is that still the case? Or did they remove that too?
I think it depends on how many suites you.
Well, you can only have
add
one
Mhm.
additional suite per lot. So you can't put in a carriage house and a suite. You can just put in a suite or a carriage house, but you can't have both, right?
With
So
the new ones, you can.
Really?
yes, they're like changing.
It's changing so fast.
They are changing the rules on us so fast. So yeah. So it used
They're
to just
literally
be.
making them up.
As
Well,
we go along.
and the funny thing is I was on the City of Calgary's website just recently when I was looking into doing suites and stuff like that, and in one spot it talked about, it had the old rules, and so the City of Calgary is constantly changing these rules. In one spot I found that it was just one suite on that specific site, and then that same day I looked at a different spot and it said, oh no, if you have a carriage suite you're also allowed a basement suite.
Well, see, even the city can't keep up.
What is going on?
Exactly.
So,
Okay.
Yeah.
So would you first like invite, let's say, an inspector from the city to your illegal basement, so to speak, and let them to tell you what needs to be upgraded, or would you try to decipher what is on City of Calgary website and hoping that you got it right?
Yeah, you can. Right away, they put you in touch with like somebody who will be doing your permit, and so you can reach out to them and just ask some certain questions about your property in general. But I don't know if they would send out an actual inspector until you needed to get an inspection done.
Like to make sure you got
Everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't
Okay,
think
but
so.
you talked about backflow valves. You said backflow valves have to be put, but you also said that suites that were built before 2018, they also don't have to do as much as if you were to build the suite from scratch.
Oh,
So they've forgiven some of that, right? Like if the suite was built prior to 2018, though I don't know how they'd know because it's an illegal suite, but you said they no longer have to do the sound abatement between the two suites, and they don't need the two separate heating sources, but they need everything else.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So yeah.
Explain that.
The dates, I don't understand the dates, but
Okay.
I don't know why
Take it as
exactly.
is. Let's
Yeah,
go with it.
that's why exactly the dates are where they're at. But yes, so those are the two biggest things that decipher from just putting in a suite to upgrading an illegal suite. Is that's going to be your biggest cost savings. Is you don't have to put in the two separate heating sources, and you don't have to put the sound dampening between the different suites. And that's huge, just because if you do have to put the separate heating in, a furnace is going to run you around like
10 grand.
yeah, like $5,000 for the furnace plus
Yeah,
all the
work.
ducts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Probably
You
around
might have
10
to
grand.
reshift some air vents and things like that too, right?
Yeah.
But you could do in the basement, if you just shut off the vents from the basement, you could do baseboard heating.
Yeah, you could do baseboard heating, but then you have to have an HRV. So
Okay. What's an HRV?
A heat recovery ventilator, and basically what that is,
That's
just
another 8 grand.
yeah,
Really?
yeah, and it's just another
I just
thing
got
that
quoted for one of my clients.
Mhm.
Oh my goodness! You might as well just put it in the furnace.
Yes, yeah. It's
So
true.
one of the things I wanna because Michelle, this is what kind of your architectural technologist. Are we saying this is right? Is that what you are? So Michelle is actually, before she did the real estate, she was a full-time architectural technologist. She still does a lot of, like, I would say, basement development, legalizing basement suites, and some remodeling of homes, right?
Yeah.
So so let's say a person thinking either like buying a house with a suite, illegal or no suite, at what part like they should start using you? Obviously at the realtor.
Yeah, exactly. Right when you go
Yeah.
to look for the
But
house.
let's say they already own the house, and like, how soon should they get somebody like you get involved in the process if they, let's say, don't want to do it themselves?
Yeah, I would say I'm the first person in any case
Okay.
that you would reach out to, just because if you're somebody looking for a house, you want to know how easy it is going to be to put in a basement suite in that house. Like, for example, if you have no way to go into the basement from the exterior, maybe we move on to the next house. Or maybe if the electrical panel is in a crappy spot, so there's certain things that I would kind of
I know what you're referring to.